right. Hi, everybody. My name is Kim Peterson, and I am the founder of Atleta Recruiting, and I'm also going to be your host for the webinar today. So first off, thank you for joining me today. I look forward to spending the next 35 minutes with you and hopefully answering a lot of your questions. First off, one housekeeping item. I just want to make sure that everybody has, if you've called in, make sure that you have your phone on mute. If you're using the computer audio, which is great, there's a little microphone button up at the top. It's an icon. If it's green, that means I can still hear you and I can still hear what's going on in the background too. So if you don't mind pressing that and making sure the little microphone is red, that's fantastic. So today we're going to go over a number of items, what the recruitment process looks like here in Canada and how it's evolving compared to other countries in the world and how Atleta is helping that. We're going to talk about how you can make yourself stand out to coaches and prospective scouts who might be looking at you. We're going to talk a little bit about some pro tips as to what to ask coaches if they're interested in you, how to get the conversation started, and give you some pro tips on what your video footage should look like and what coaches and scouts look for. And then, of course, we'll give you some free resources at the end that you may want to utilize as well. So we are going to get started right now. So I'm going to stop this webcam. So bye for now, but I'll still be here. And now I'm going to share my computer screen with you so that hopefully you can see the presentation going. So we should see it right there. Awesome. All right. So let's get started here. So the first thing we're going to do is talk a little bit about the dream. And the dream we're talking about today is being recruited into Canada for varsity athletics, whether it be soccer, basketball, volleyball, or hockey. We're gonna give you a little bit of an insight. We're gonna watch a couple of videos from a couple of our universities that give you a little bit of insight as to what university life might look like. So just sit back, enjoy the first couple of videos, and then we'll be right back to chat about them.
I came to Acadia in the fall of 1952. I was 18 years old at the time. I was in awe, even though it was considered a small university. To me, it was very, very big. They called me Mr. Acadia, but I think maybe because I was a student. And my first job at Acadia was alumni affairs, and so not only did I interact with the students, but also with the alumni.
The teachers know your name. You're not just a number here, and everyone comes together. It's like a family here.
So I love all my teammates, and you go through so much, so many highs and so many lows throughout a season that it really gives you a special bond. And also the coaches here, they care so much about you.
Major Fred Kelly was my coach and my mentor. I'm big on tradition and the history of Acadia, and it's been wonderful for me and my family. And I know it's the same for a lot of people.
It's kind of historical, it's like walking through a museum, but you get to learn here. They're very supportive in this community. It's a big difference from like a bigger city.
Much as it shaped you as a person, you kind of come here and you leave it all out on the field, and then when you leave, you're leaving with a great education and a lot of great friends.
No matter what happens on the field, like we always have pride in ourselves and have pride in us because other people wore this uniform before us. So
I find today's students are very loyal to Acadia. They carry that tradition. So I think Acadia is lucky and very fortunate to have that type of student. When they graduate, they remember this place.
Some of the guys I know I'm going to be friends with for life, basically. We always talk and just give each other love for this. Always just got each other's back. So that type of friendship is just hard to lose. I love Acadia.
I find it really interesting that I'm able to combine my love for sports and also my interest in academics, and being able to research devastating injuries such as the ACL injury that many of my teammates unfortunately have gone through makes it really worthwhile. I'm sure we don't even realize how much they've done until we leave here.
I feel like anybody who's gone here is proud that they've gone here. It's a part of you. It's not just where you got your degree.
It's an optimism and an ambition to make the world better.
And that they can actually push and motivate themselves to do things that maybe they wouldn't have thought they could have done beforehand. To find things that truly that they're passionate for, not just that they're satisfied for.
You know, confidence isn't something you get overnight. It's something you really have to consciously make an effort to put yourself out there.
I can say that by the time I do leave, that I feel like I'm going to be proud of how I have changed and grown. It was a significant part of my life.
I would say that it's a very small, close-knit community that, you know, are very passionate, and Bishop's vibe, they bleed that purple, as they say.
It was exactly what I wanted it to be, and it was perfect for me. I met a lot of people in first year, and my group of friends only grew. It definitely made me feel more comfortable trying new things. I was shy when I came here, but it kind of forced me to come out of my shell.
Right away, and I think what was so magical about it right away was that I felt part of the community, even though I, at that point, hadn't even received an offer of admission. It's just like, oh, you're here, welcome.
There were people all dressed in purple, like, I thought I was living in my own movie. That's what it felt like. And I just remember sitting in the car thinking, oh my gosh, where am I? Like, this is amazing.
So I don't know about anybody else, maybe some of the parents out there, watching those videos just makes me want to go back to university. And hopefully for some of the athletes on the line, if this is a dream of yours, it just cements that. If you're unsure, maybe it gives you a little bit of insight into what life could be like at university. So let's move on and start talking about the process here in Canada. What does it look like right now? This would actually be for, I guess, some of the parents in the room. Does anybody remember a desk that looks something a little bit like this? This certainly was my first desk. There might actually have been a fax machine off to the side, or one of those printers that you had to actually separate the paper after it had printed on. This is exactly what my desk looks like, and maybe some of you remember that as well. This picture right here is actually what my workspace looks like right now. So it's my laptop, my phone, and sometimes if I'm feeling fancy, maybe my iPad. And that's actually in an office share that I have here in downtown Vancouver. But my office can be anywhere. It can be a local Starbucks. It can be when I'm traveling across Canada or overseas, anywhere. And that's all due to one thing, and we all know what I'm talking about here. It's the internet. The internet is changing the way we're working. It's certainly changing the way we're living. The question is it changing the way we recruit here in Canada as well? Are we utilizing this network that we have that basically takes geography out of the question? Are we utilizing it to the fullest extent to get the best athletes that we can and to connect athletes to the schools that we can? Has anybody heard of a site called Captain U? This is a site down in the States that's actually been developed, and the sole purpose of it is to help kids get recruited into NCAA athletics or NCAA 2 athletics. Their big claim to fame, if you see it on the screen there, is they have 2 million high school athletes, colleges, teams, and events on Captain U. 2 million. This site has been around for a number of years. And they're helping their athletes down in the States make sure they get the best out of their university or college experience. Another site, Be Recruited, again in the States, 1.7 million active high school athletes are on that site. 1.7 million, 30,000 colleges, coaches, and 74 million search appearances. So these sites are huge, and they're available to the people down in the States. Another one, NCSA, This site is a little bit more along the lines of personal help. And so their big claim to fame there is they've helped thousands get recruited, thousands. A simple Google search, College Athletic Recruitment USA, yields us 1.9 million results. And if we look at those results, they are the sites that we're looking at. You see NCSA on there, you see Be Recruited, you see all of these sites that are designed to help people, help students get into universities and colleges in the States for athletics. Well, we do a Google search of Athletic Recruiting Canada. 1.1 million results. Hey, you think maybe we're not so far behind. Maybe we are utilizing this whole internet thing to help us up here. But then we have a look at the results. And the first thing that we see up there is a recruitment for professional staffing solutions. So you Google athletic recruiting, you get professional staffing solutions. The next result is fitness singles. So I guess if you want to meet a fit single, just Google Athletic Recruitment Canada. The next one we see there is Be Recruited, which we know from the previous screen is actually a US focused site. I will say right now, you Google that and you do come up with Athleta, but we don't have specific sites necessarily, and we're not utilizing them to the extent that we should to help with the recruitment process here in Canada. This next slide is actually, when I developed this site and this app, I did a number of interviews with coaches across the country in various different sports to see what it is that they would like out of this site. And this story I'm going to tell you is actually from a hockey coach. He had actually just finished coaching his team at Nationals, so they'd done pretty well in their season. They didn't win, but they got to the final, so it was a little heartbreak for them. But he took a week off and spent some time with his family, and then he went back into the office on a Monday morning, and he sat down and opened up his email. And in his words, not mine, he said there were hundreds, if not thousands, of recruitment videos in there that had been emailed to him by prospective athletes looking to play for his team. And he sort of sighed and said, there's no way that he can go through, never mind respond to all of these. For his team, he was looking very specifically for a centerman for the next year. He had no way of knowing on these emails who was a centerman, who wasn't, where they're coming from, what year they were graduating. He had no way to quickly go through and just sort of sort these so that he could level down to the ones that he wanted to speak to. So basically what he said was that he just didn't go through them. And that's, I think, a sentiment that would be echoed by a number of coaches. So when creating this site, this is actually the coach portal that the coaches go into. So when they're searching for an athlete, they can search by name, by sport, if they're right or left-handed or footed, height, weight, gender, preferred position, GPA, graduating year, secondary position, events, so that if they're at a certain tournament, they can see who's at that tournament. And they have a number of different options there that they can search for things by. So I guess the question that we pose on this screen is, which would you prefer? And I think the coaches have spoken. So 100% of U Sport, which is the rebranded CIS, which is the Canadian University Athletics Association, and 100% of the CCAA, which is the college equivalent here in Canada. 100% of the coaches in the sports that we cover do have active profiles on Athleta. So let's talk about some of the facts. And these are the facts that aren't from anyone's perspective other than a coach's. So again, during all of this creation of Athleta, during coach interviews and things, I gathered a lot of information, and I thought I'd use this to share it with you. This first one was from a soccer coach, actually, in the Prairies, and it was a great quote from her, and I really, really do like it. And she says, I think the biggest misconception with parents and players today is that a coach is going to find you. By the example that I just showed you before, coaches are inundated with players wanting to play for their teams, and they're not necessarily going to find you. You need to make yourself stand out, and you need to find them and make them notice you. And that is something that came across very loud and clear when doing coach interviews with coaches across the country. It seemed to be a theme that help us find you was basically what they were trying to get at. This one came from this was a great quote from a coach who was actually another hockey coach, actually, not the same one, but a different one. And he said, despite what you think, coaches aren't discovering talent when they attend games or tournaments. They come to these events with a specific list of recruits they want to make second and third evaluations of. They made their initial evaluations based on that athlete's highlight or skills footage. And this is really important, especially if you're looking at a university or college that maybe isn't in your geographic area. The highlight and skills footage is so very important to have and to be able to showcase, to just pique their interest. That's what's going to get them interested, and that's what's going to make them reach out and speak to you, come to a live event. Nothing will replace having them see you live, but this is an area where you have control of, and you can pique their interest to show them a little bit of what you have and hopefully get them out to see you. This one came from a volleyball coach actually in Alberta who, of course, I don't know. Right after I launched the site, I sent it out to the coaches saying, here it is, go in and give me your feedback. And this was the very first response I got. And it was, I'm going to say 5 or 6 minutes after this coach had access to the site. And he said, let me say on behalf of the coaches that this is a great service you are creating. I will be letting the other coaches at our school know about this opportunity. Thank you. The reason I bring this up is not just to say it's wonderful, because I think it is, but I bring this up because coaches are using this. It's a platform that hasn't been available here in Canada, and when they realize it is available, oh wow, they are utilizing this. Connections are being made every day. I see it on the site. Conversations are being had. So you need to know that this is something that the coaches are using. Every month in our Athleta newsletter and on the website, you'll see I do a coach interview. And I ask the same questions to a lot of the coaches. Some of them vary depending on the sport, but one that I always ask is, what advice would you give a prospective recruit hoping to play sports in a university or college in Canada? And in varying ways, they all seem to say the same thing, and it's a rendition of, don't take no for an answer. Keep letting me know about you. Don't give up. If it's something that you really want, make me notice you. And Athleta is a site where you can make the coaches notice you. And this final one, this right here comes from a U Sport scholarship guide that we here at Athleta created. I don't know how many of the parents or the athletes on the line have ever tried to find information about athletic scholarships here in Canada. It's fairly difficult to find, and you have to go to a number of different sites, and you're flipping back and forth to seeing which is which. So we basically compiled all the information that we could find into a handy scholarship guide. I'll put a link up at the end of the webinar where you can go and download your free electronic version of this. But I wanted to draw your attention to something very specific, and it's the second item here, and it says, entering students into a U Sport institution with an average of at least 80% from their high school are eligible to receive $4,500 annually from the institution of their choice. Now, the reason I bring this up is there's 2 reasons here. The first one, that 80%, okay? So the reason I'm saying this is that it's great to know that there's scholarships available, but wouldn't it be terrible if you're in your last semester of grade 12 thinking that you're eligible for these scholarships and you have a 79% average? You need to know what you need to do in order to get these scholarships, and one of them is 80%. If you have 80%, absolutely you are eligible for these athletic scholarships. If you don't, you don't have eligibility for them. The second thing I bring up is the $4,500 annually. So just because you get it once doesn't mean you get it every year. You still have to keep up your marks. Here in Canada, we don't just focus on athletics, we focus on academics equally. So you need to have the marks as well as the athletics in order to continually get your scholarships. Coincidentally, I don't know if anybody on the line knows, but the average tuition for university across Canada is around $6,000. So these scholarships, they definitely do play a role in paying for your tuition. All right. So let's talk about Athleta itself. So who are we? So that's me. So Athleta, I am the founder, creator, and that's me actually in front of, I don't know if we have any, do we have any soccer? Oh, yeah, looks like we have a couple soccer players on the line. So we have, that's me in front of my happy place, which is the home grounds of Manchester United, Old Trafford. And I bring this up because I wanted to give you a little bit of background information on who I am and why I created this site. I started playing soccer when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and I don't know where the love affair with the sport came from, but I fell in love with it. I played up all through high school. I went to university at the University of Lethbridge, go Pronghorns, and I continued on playing continually. Now I've developed into a coaching career as well, but it's something that's inherently passionate for me. Sport development, sport creation, things like this. And we'll watch a video a little bit later that'll tell you exactly why I created the site. But it's really something important and something very personal to me. And I put a lot of effort into it. The other thing you need to know is that whenever you reach out to Athleta, we're a small company. So most of the time you'll probably be reaching out to me. So if you see things on the site that you would, or if you see things missing on the site, something you would like to see on the site, feel free to reach out to us. We're a small company and we're building the site for you guys. So if there's something you love, tell us for sure. If there's something you think we can improve on, absolutely tell us, and we'll try our best to do that for you. So we're gonna now watch a couple of videos. First one it's actually me. You get to listen to me again talking about what Athleta is and why I created it. And then the second one is a walkthrough of the whole site to give you an idea of what it looks like sort of behind the curtain so you can get an idea. So Athleta, at its simplest form, would be an online platform that helps to connect youth athletes with collegiate level and university coaches here in Canada for the purposes of recruitment and scholarship opportunities. What made me start Athleta was honestly the girls that I coach. Here in Vancouver, I coach a U18 girls soccer team, and the girls were coming to me with simple questions such as, how do I get recruited for university? How do I go about getting seen? I started looking around as to how do I go about getting coaches out to see the girls, and I found the process a little bit antiquated. I found that you have to know somebody to get a coach out to see your kids, and so there seemed to be a gap to me. There seemed to be something missing here. So I created Athleta to fill that gap so that the athletes could showcase themselves and hopefully go for the dreams that they want to achieve. All right, so let's have a look at the site itself. If you're already on the site, that's fantastic. There may be a couple things in here that you weren't aware of. If you're not on the site, this will give you an idea of exactly what it is and what you're looking at. Okay, so what you saw there was a number of things. So the first thing you saw from the athlete's perspective, how you can search for a school. I've seen some kids just simply put in men's basketball or whatever the sport is and just sort of go from there. All they know is they want to play basketball somewhere, and that's just fine. You can search based on program, based on tuition, based on geographic area, whatever it is that you want to search on, you can search on those. You also saw an event check-in there where anybody who is attending that event or anybody who searches by that event, they can see that you're attending that event. You also saw that you created your schedule. So for that certain event, if you, let's say you're going for, I live here in Vancouver and there's a Whitecap showcase coming up. Let's say you're going to the Whitecap showcase, you click planning to attend or you check in at it, you create your schedule. Any connected coach can then see your schedule. So you as an athlete, you know which coaches are going to that event. You can try to connect with them while they're there. They can see your schedule and they can come see you at any game. So it's really a way to connect on the fly if you need to using those events. So, is Athleta the answer? No, it's not the answer, but it certainly is a step in the right direction. As I said, nothing will ever take away from a coach seeing you live. This is just a step in the process to be able to intrigue a coach in order to get them to start a conversation, hopefully get them out to see your games. So how do I join? First up, you go to the website. You join at www.athleta.ca. You can only sign up online, so the sign up has to be done there. Next thing is to download the app. And I say this not just because it's really cool that there's an app and it works. I say this, there is a reason for it. On the site, whenever you get a connection, where you get a like or a connection request from a coach, we email you and notify you about that. But we can't email you every time there's a chat, because we've noticed on the site there's just a lot of chats going on and it's too many emails that are being sent out. So the only way you get notified about a coach actually chatting with you is on the app. You'll get a little notification. So it's a free download for you. Just search Atleta Recruiting, and it's free for Apple and Android. So just go and get the app once you've signed up. Of course, share the love. As I said before, if there's things that you love, feel free to share it with us and share it with others. If there's things we can improve on, just share those with us. So let's talk about specifically the memberships for those who aren't already members. So memberships for an individual athlete, they're $9 a month. There is no minimum monthly requirement for how long you need to be on the site. I want people on the site who are using it and finding it beneficial and actually connecting with coaches. So $9 a month. If you use it for 1 month, fantastic. If you use it for 5 months, fantastic. Whatever you need it for. There's a team membership, so that's up to 18 players per team. So if you're on a team and you all want to pool your resources and get that, you have some extra fundraising cash or something, $90 a month. And then club. So for those, we do have, looks like we do have some team representatives. So we do have a club membership, and that's for 12 teams for up to 18 players per team. It's $350 a month. And those are obviously plus tax. We're here in BC, so it's a 5% tax on top of that. So let's get to some interesting information. So this is what I've gathered. These are what I'm calling our pro tips. And these are what I've gathered from the coaches that I've been interviewing across the country. So we'll talk specifically about what you should put in your highlight reel footage to get their attention. And then what questions you should ask when you're meeting with the coaches or you're speaking with them. So first, at the highlight reel footage, front end load your footage. So when I do this presentation in person, I ask the audience, what does front end load your footage mean? I can't do that because I don't know who's going to answer, but what does front end load your footage mean? It means simply put the good stuff at the front. I quite often get asked how long should highlight footage be? And I've asked the coaches this, and the answers vary. I mean, it's fine to be, a couple minutes all the way up to about 6 or 7. Beyond that, you're just wasting your time. So probably a maximum of about 7 minutes. A coach will watch it. If they found you on Atleta, they will watch it because they're interested in you. They may not watch the whole thing. So make sure you put your good footage at the front, so that they'll definitely watch a minute or two. They may not watch the whole thing. So make sure they see the good stuff up front. This is a great one. Have quality opponents. So as much as a coach is looking at you, they can also assess the quality of the opponents that you're playing. And I've heard this from a number of coaches. Sometimes if the quality isn't as high as it should be or as high as you are as the athlete, they'll actually just disregard the footage. They won't even take it into consideration because it's not valid anymore if you're playing against a lower division or a team that's just simply less skilled than you. So make sure in your highlight reel you have quality opponents and showcase yourself as you would be playing in a university or college. This is a great one as well. Don't just show the end product. So I'm going to quote this in soccer terms, but this goes for a number of, it goes for every sport actually. If you've scored a great goal, coaches don't want to see 3 minutes of goals. They want to see the build up to the goals. They want to see the passing. They want to see the off ball movement. And this goes for, and I've heard this from basketball coaches. I've heard it from hockey coaches as well. Don't just show the end product. Okay. They want to see what led up to that as well and see how you are as a full player, not just as one part of a player. And this one is great for all sports, but I've heard this specifically from basketball and from volleyball coaches. Have full game footage available if requested. So on the site, on Atleta, you can upload video that's your own, and we've just actually made it available that you can now upload YouTube video links as well. So if your club or your team has video footage of full games, make sure you put it on your profile. The highlight reel gets them interested. They will want to watch more. For soccer, not necessarily will they watch a full game. They may. They'd rather see it live. But for basketball, volleyball, and hockey, I've heard make sure, I mean, it's imperative that you have full game footage available for them to watch. Okay, so now let's talk about how to start the conversation with a coach. So, you've connected. Now what? I mean, you've liked each other. Now there's a connection. Now what do you do? So here's some of the questions that the coaches have said are great questions for you to ask them. Shows that you're interested, shows that you're keen. So here's a couple examples of that. So what style does your team play? What style of play does your team play? So this may come into play for you as well. So think about it, not just are you trying to, impress a coach, you're interviewing that coach as well to make sure that this is the right fit for you, because you don't want to go to a team that plays a style that won't benefit you and you won't succeed at. So it's a really good question to ask. How many players are on your roster? So teams in all sports and in universities and colleges here, they have starters, they have subs, and they have something called red shirts. And red shirts are those players that they train with the team and they can play in exhibition games, but they never play in regulation or playoff games. So you want to make sure, you want to know how many they're taking on the roster. You want to know the breakdown so that you have an idea of where you might fit in that. What year are the players who play your position? Okay, so this is a really good question. So if you're sort of debating between two schools as to which you want to go to, and if you're a soccer player and you're a striker, on school 1, their starting striker is just going into their 2nd year of school. On school 2, their starting striker is in their 5th year. So you have 5 years of eligibility. So that starting striker in the 2nd school will likely be going on after that, and there will be an open spot. In the 1st school, you may have to wait a number of years before you actually even get a shot at that position. So it's something to know going into it, and it may help you make your decision as well. What does your training schedule look like? This one is important, not just to get an idea of what life's going to be like, but it's also important when you're looking at your academic planning, because there's preseason, there's in-season, and then there's post-season. And all of those come with different varying degrees of commitment involved with them. So a lot of the time, student athletes take their harder courses in areas when they're in their post-season. But you want to get an idea of what that post-season actually looks like so you can plan out your academics as well. Do you offer athlete study groups? This is really important. A lot of schools now have started offering these because student athletes travel quite often on the weekends. And so sometimes you're on the bus doing schoolwork and stuff, but having just a group just specifically for student athletes where you can sort of commiserate together and learn together is really beneficial for a lot of student athletes as they continue on through their academic career. And finally, this is a really important one. I had a friend who actually missed a scholarship deadline simply because they didn't ask when the deadline was. And so are there any deadlines I need to be aware of? Scholarships, when are you finalizing your roster? When do I need to get back to you by? Things like this. It may seem simple, but for a lot of parents, and I know for the athletes, this is your first time going through this. So make sure that you are aware of all of those deadlines and you keep yourself organized so that you don't miss out on something that you thought was going to be there for you. As I said, this is going to be a few resources that I want you to take advantage of. So obviously the website atleta.ca. The second one there is that youth sport scholarship guide that I mentioned earlier. You can't really find it on the site. You can find, there's a pop-up that comes up every now and again. Actually, the first time you visit the site, it will come up where you can get it. Or you can go to this site here. So it's atleta.ca/youthsportguide. And you can download your own free electronic version of that youth sport scholarship guide. It has literally everything in it that we could find. So feel free to download that. Atleta has a YouTube channel. So if you are a member or you do decide to become a member and you get stumped on something, there's YouTube videos on a lot of things. There's how-tos for your profiles, for searches, for if you create an event, all sorts of things. So there's how-to videos on there. The Atleta blog, this is something I personally have taken a lot of time and effort into doing. There are quite a few articles that range in topics from financing university and colleges, campus visits. I've actually done a comparison of every university in Canada that goes through what does the city look like, what does the athletics department look like, all of those. So you'll find all of those already done for you on the blog. You just have to go and have a look at it, but that's the site for the blog. Of course, to get a hold of us, help@atleta.ca. We're available whenever you need us, so please feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from our athletes and our coaches. And the final one is a really interesting organization that I recently became aware of. It's called grantme.ca. And it was founded by a woman named Madison Guy, who was a former UBC varsity athlete. And she managed to fund her entire university education on grants that basically would just have gone unfunded. There's a stat out there that there's somewhere around 5 million every year in grants that are available that go unfunded, meaning there's just nobody who applies for them. And so GrantMe works with athletes and student athletes and parents to make sure that if you need the funding, make sure that you have the ability to apply for some of these things that might go unfunded if nobody applies for them. So it's a really good resource there as well. With that, I think I will open it up to some questions. So on your little control panel, there is a chat function, and you can send it directly to me. And feel free to ask any questions that way, and I will answer them over here. So I'll give it just a couple seconds and see if we have any questions. Okay, so our first question, what do we write in our bio? It's a great question. So I assume this is talking about the Atleta bio, so it's from a member already. So for those who aren't members, you get to write your own little bio. It's 500 characters, and you can just write anything in there. I've actually done a blog post. I think it's the 5 tips to writing your bio. Basically, the gist of it is start with your athletics first. So any awards or accolades that you have, or you've been a part of a winning team, whatever it is, put your athletics in there first. Then go to your academics if that's a strong point for you. Make sure you put that in there. It's very important to show a little bit of your personality, so be yourself. But what I would suggest is go to the blog and read. There's 5 points on there. Read through them, and that will help you determine what to write on your bio. Sure. So the next question, how is it balancing athletics? Okay, so basically, how do people find balancing athletics and academics in university? I will say, first of all, there is actually a video on the site, and I believe it's under the blog. I interviewed 2 current student athletes. They're here at UBC. And they talk about the trickiness of balancing academics and athletics. I would say go watch that video, because I could sit here and tell you it's been 20 years since I've been in university. So it's a little bit different, but I would say this is directly from them. They're athletes right now. They're dealing with this every day of their lives. So I would say go watch that video. And I'm hoping to do an athlete interview probably every other month. So there will be other ones coming out. This one happens to be at UBC, and they're 2 varsity soccer players. But I'll be interviewing other sports as well. So stay tuned for that. Is there any monthly requirement for memberships? No, as I said, the $9 a month, or if it's a team, $90, or if it's a club, $350. There's no requirement. I want you to use the site for as long as you need the site for, and I don't want you to. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to make you pay for a year if you're going to need it for 5 months. So there's no minimum requirement. Just go on, use it, see how it goes, connect with some coaches, have some conversations, see your options out there, and use the site for as long as you need it. Are there any other questions? All right, there doesn't seem to be. So if you do have any other questions and you want to reach me, again, help@atleta.ca. If it's directed towards me, just address it to Kim, and we'll make sure it gets to me. And I can certainly respond to those as needed. So with that, I think I will say thank you very much for joining. If you do have questions, again, reach out at any time, and hopefully we'll speak to you again soon. Thanks so much.